Hey guys, it's time for another horror movie recap. Today, we're diving into the American horror anthology, The Mortuary Collection. Imagine living in the town of Raven's End back in the 1950s. If you happened to wake up around 6 or 7 in the morning, you'd see plenty of kids riding their bikes, weaving through the streets and alleys, delivering fresh newspapers to the residents. In those days, this was how people stayed connected to the outside world. Life moved slowly, which unfortunately allowed dangerous individuals, like serial killers, to run rampant. On this particular morning, a paperboy in a red cap is in a rush. At every house he passes, he carelessly tosses the paper onto the porch before speeding off to his next stop. The town feels oppressed, shrouded under dark clouds. Recently, a mental patient escaped from the local asylum, specifically hunting children. The killer allegedly boils them alive and pulls out their teeth, earning the nickname the Tooth Fairy Killer. Before long, the paperboy makes his way up to an old Gothic manor overlooking the town. It's the home of Montgomery Dark, the town mortician. Usually the boy is too terrified to approach, leaving the paper dozens of meters away from the gate. But today, camera in hand, he walks up and rings the bell. There's no answer for a long time. Curious, he peers through the small mail slot in the door. He snaps a photo with his flash to see inside. But the moment the flash goes off, a pair of ancient eyes appear from the darkness. The old man moves like a ghost, appearing right in front of the boy. In the panic, the boy's camera strap gets caught in the mail slot. The door creaks open. He wants to run, but also wants his camera back. When he finally sees the old man fully, he lets go in terror and falls backward onto the ground. Montgomery Dark is pale, his face covered in bruises that look like livor mortis. He holds out the camera, reminding the boy not to forget it. But the kid is too scared. He screams and sprints away. Montgomery sighs and closes the door, checking his pocket watch, clearly concerned about the time. Inside the manor, a funeral is taking place. Mourners stand in silence around the casket of a young boy named Logan. His death was tragic. Someone stuffed him into an oven and cooked him alive. His parents are devastated. Their tears run dry. After the service ends, Montgomery prepares to cremate the body as the family leaves. Suddenly, a young woman appears standing right next to the coffin. She reaches out to open the lid, but Montgomery stops her just in time. At first, he thinks she's a relative, but she introduces herself as Sam. She saw the help wanted sign outside and is here for the job. Hearing this, Montgomery gives a sly smile and invites her into his office. He wonders why a young girl would want a career in death, so he decides to test her courage with a story from his collection. This first tale takes place at a dinner party. A woman in a yellow dress named Emma enters the bathroom. She finds a strange sticky substance on the light switch, coating her hand like slime. While she wonders what it is, a man, Peter, knocks on the door, flirting with her through the wood. Emma seems nervous. They likely just met over drinks. They agree to meet on the balcony in 10 minutes. Emma then walks over to the mirror and pulls 3 men's wallets from her purse. Turns out she's not an innocent guest, but a professional pickpocket. Interestingly, one wallet belongs to a bearded doctor named Harold Kubler. She takes the cash and tosses the empty wallets into the trash. She checks her reflection, fixing her makeup before the rendezvous. But then she notices a keyhole on the medicine cabinet mirror. Her thief instincts kick in. Finding it locked only convinces her that there must be something valuable inside. She pulls a lockpick from her bra and gets to work. She's focused and skilled. The lock clicks open, but she accidentally slices her finger, drawing blood. Suddenly, a tentacle shoots out from the cabinet, slamming the door shut while she's distracted cleaning the wound. Now her curiosity is piqued. She braces herself against the sink and rips the cabinet door open. Instead of jewelry or pills, she sees something that defies logic. Terrified, she screams and slams it shut again, but the creature inside starts thrashing, trying to break out. After a moment, everything goes silent. She yells for help but is too scared to move. With no other choice, she holds her breath and tiptoes toward the door. She makes no sound, inching further away. Her tension eases slightly as she nears the exit. But staring at the stolen watch on the floor, she feels a chill. The cabinet behind her flies open. Slime splatters everywhere. It's a giant octopus-like monster. Its massive tentacle whips out like a lasso, wrapping tight around her waist. She screams as she's dragged back, stuck against the cabinet opening like a branch, struggling in vain. With a sickening crunch of bones, her spine snaps and she goes limp. She stepped into muddy waters and paid with her life. Though the story is unique, Sam thinks a bathroom octopus is a bit ridiculous. She asks for something more grounded in reality. Montgomery hands her an employment contract, explaining that he doesn't care about facts, but the moral evil deeds have consequences. He then begins his second tale. This one takes place at a university in the 60s. As society shifted toward the information age, minds were opening up. At the campus entrance, a handsome student named Jake is handing out flyers to fresh female students. He talks about women's rights and sexual liberation, advocating for relationships with loved ones, provided they practice safe sex. While the message sounds progressive, Jake uses it as a guise to invite girls to a party at his fraternity house that night. Anyone interested is welcome. Those who take the free condoms are likely to become prey for Jake and his friends. But sometimes the prey is dangerous and well disguised. A quiet-looking girl named Sandra walks casually toward the building. Jake's friend Doug chases after her, repeating Jake's spiel, but Doug stutters and acts awkward, making Sandra uncomfortable and dismissive. Jake swoops in to save the day. He sends Doug away, and with smooth charm, quickly builds a rapport with Sandra. They agree to meet at the party. As Sandra walks away, the camera pans to a bulletin board nearby. It's covered in missing person flyers, all male students. Soon night falls. Jake and his buddies are ready at the fraternity party. Sandra arrives right on time. Without much talking, Jake leads Sandra to an upstairs bedroom. When things get heated, Sandra pulls out the condom from earlier. Jake is reluctant, but forced to comply with his own feminist act. He pretends to use it, but secretly tosses it aside mid-act. Time flies and they stay up until dawn. When Jake wakes up, Sandra is already gone. She left her number on the mirror in lipstick. Call me, but Jake just wipes it off with a rag. He has no intention of wasting time on the same girl twice. But karma works in mysterious ways. Jake is suddenly hit with a wave of intense nausea. He vomits violently into the toilet. Doug walks in to congratulate him on his score.
Yeah, man, so that's like number 67, right?
As they talk, Doug notices a large rash on Jake's abdomen. Jake plays it cool, saying it's just friction burn. But once alone, he looks at his stomach in worry. Jake rushes to the hospital. His doctor is none other than Dr. Harold Kubler. Upon seeing the test results, the doctor freezes in shock, mutters about a mistake, and flees the room. Jake, panicked, grabs the medical chart. He finds the word pregnant stamped on it. He can't believe it. Desperate, he buys abortion pills and downs them all. But it only makes him vomit more. He checks the mirror. His belly has ballooned like a giant beach ball. He scrambles for the phone and eventually manages to contact Sandra. Cleverly hiding his condition, he asks to meet up again and gets her address. He grabs his keys and runs downstairs. But in the lobby, Jake freezes. Clutching his belly, he sees 3 robed figures standing motionless. Jake pleads that now is not the time. The fraternity has a tradition. When a member breaks the hookup record, they hold a celebration ceremony, hanging his nameplate at the very top. The brothers swarm him, lifting him high in the air, spinning and shaking him to hang his sign. Jake is in agony and can't hold it back any longer. With a scream, a massive burst of white fluid explodes from below. Without delay, he drives to Sandra's house. A man, presumably Sandra's father, answers the door. Seeing Jake's state, he shakes his head, knowing exactly what's happening. The parents guide Jake inside and place him on a birthing chair. Sandra comes down, hearing the commotion. Jake furiously asks what she did to him. Sandra looks at him with disdain.
What did I do to you? I thought you wore protection.
She believes he brought this on himself by not using protection. She then turns away to call her next victim.
Looks like I'm free after all.
It's nearly there. Quick breaths.
I got a question for you. How is this gonna work? Where's it gonna come out?
It's gonna come out the same way it got in.
Finally, under Sandra's mocking gaze, Jake gives birth, his body exploding in the process. Sandra's mother takes the alien baby and carefully places it in a room. As she leaves, she steps on a squeaky toy. The noise wakes up dozens of other alien babies who begin to cry. After the story, Sam admits the old man has some storytelling skills. She follows him deeper into the mortuary. They arrive at the embalming room, where bodies are prepared for viewing. On the table lies the corpse of a young woman, Carol Owens. Despite her young appearance, her lower back has bed sores typically found on the elderly. Her mouth shows traces of lithium, a drug used for long-term mental illness. Sam notices her wedding ring. It's engraved with the words, "Till death do us part." It seems romantic, but Montgomery asks, what if death isn't the end? He begins the story of Carol and her husband Wendell Owens. On their wedding day, Wendell was overjoyed to marry the love of his life. They exchanged vows, promising to stay together in sickness and health, till death. But as he said it, the church light faded, and Carol began to seize violently. She was ill. Wendell wakes up from this memory with a scream. Marriage has become a living nightmare. Carol is bedridden and catatonic. Wendell is exhausted. He blends her food into a paste and feeds her spoon by spoon. Suddenly, she seems to choke or gasp. Wendell hopes for a miracle, a sign of life. But no, she just burps. Wendell is disgusted and can no longer bear it. Drowning in debt and despair is at his limit. He asks Dr. Kubler, who is visiting, how much longer Carol has. The doctor says she's doing great, meaning she's stable and could live another 10 or 8 years. Wendell breaks down. He can't handle another 6 months, let alone 10 years. Dr. Kubler sees his desperation. He pulls out a bottle of strong painkillers. He implies that if Carol were to take too many in one day, it would be fatal. And crucially, the drug leaves no trace. It would look like natural causes. After the doctor leaves, Wendell gives Carol a gift, a statue of an Arctic hare symbolizing freedom. Then, he opens the capsules and pours the powder into her dinner soup. He reminisces about their romance as he feeds her the poison. Soon Carol's body reacts violently. She grips his hand, seemingly in agony. Regret floods Wendell. He tries the Heimlich maneuver to make her vomit the pills. He collapses, hating himself for what he's done. But in his panic, he didn't check on Carol. When he pulls her up, he sees the hare statue has pierced her forehead. Wendell screams, and she falls again, driving the statue deeper. Brain matter spills out. She's dead. Wendell panics completely. He calls Dr. Kubler. He hysterically explains the accident. The doctor is cold. He tells Wendell to get rid of the body, dump it in the ocean for the sharks, and never contact him again. Wendell finds an old trunk, but it's too small. Carol's legs hang out. Seeing no other way, Wendell grabs an electric carving knife. He steels himself to cut her legs. Just as he starts, Carol begins to struggle. She was still alive. Wendell pulls the statue from her head, killing her for real this time. Blood sprays everywhere and Wendell loses his mind. He saws through her legs, drenching the room in blood. An hour later, he cleans up, packs the trunk, and heads for the elevator. A neighbor tries to get in. Wendell blocks him, furiously hitting the close button, almost crushing the neighbor. The elevator descends slowly, but at the 8th floor, with a loud clunk, it gets stuck between floors. Wendell screams and claws at the doors, but it's useless. His shouting attracts an old lady neighbor outside. She insists on calling the police to help him. Wendell panics. He turns around and sees blood leaking from the trunk, flooding the elevator floor. He tries desperately to wipe it up. He tries to climb out the top hatch, but slips on the blood and falls hard. Furious, he throws away his wedding ring, screaming, "Fuck till death do us part."
I wish I never... Yeah!
After his outburst, he hears sobbing coming from inside the trunk. It sounds like Carol crying. The trunk's latch pops open on its own. Wendell calls her name and creeps closer. Suddenly, the elevator drops. It passes the first floor, crashing into the basement. Through the glass window, Wendell sees a vision outside. It's a montage of his life with Carol. Their happy beginnings, the proposal, the wedding. Stories always start so beautifully. Half an hour later, police pry open the elevator doors. There's no blood, no body parts. Just Wendell, sitting alone, clutching a wedding album. He mutters "till death do us part" over and over. He's gone insane. He never chopped up his wife. After the accidental death, the gore was all a hallucination of his guilt. Hearing this, Sam says she hates the story. She argues Wendell only did what anyone in that situation would want to do. It was a mercy. Montgomery replies, "One must accept one's fate and keep one's vows." He then takes Sam to the basement to show her the final step: cremation. The coffin contains the boy from earlier, Logan Kubler. Just as Montgomery is about to push him into the furnace, Sam stops him. She reveals she isn't here for a job. She's here for the boy's body. She begins to tell her own story involving Logan. It was near midnight. Sam was babysitting Logan at his parents' house. After Logan fell asleep, she danced around the kitchen. Suddenly, a news bulletin flashed on the TV. A thunderstorm had knocked out the security system. At the local asylum, the inmates rioted, and a dangerous patient had escaped into the town. Police warned everyone to lock their doors and windows. Sam ignored the news. She even opened the door to watch the rain. While taking out the trash, she missed the fact that a window nearby had been shattered open. When she returned to the living room, a strange man was sitting on the sofa. Sam didn't scream. She quietly grabbed a kitchen knife. But the man appeared behind her. Half his head was covered in blood. He looked confused. Sam pretended to help, wiping his head with a towel to keep him calm. The phone rang. Sam was too scared to answer. The answering machine played a frantic message from the mother. As the message ended,
"Why the hell aren't you answering the phone? Listen, there was a riot over at the asylum and a psychopath escaped. It's the same one responsible for all those kids that were mutilated and... lock the doors and stay with Logan until we get home."
the man noticed a drawing on the fridge. It showed 4 people. Seeing the toys, he realized there was a child in the house. Just as he moved, Sam reacted instantly. She jammed his hand into the meat grinder and cranked it hard. Sam attacked again, but the man kicked her away with his long legs. He pulled his mangled hand free, nearly fainting from the pain. The phone rang again. Despite his injury, he ran to answer it. He couldn't speak, only screaming into the receiver. Sam jumped on his back, biting off a piece of his ear. She was so vicious, it seemed like she was the escaped mental patient. Finally, using brute strength, the man slammed Sam onto the floor. He headed straight upstairs for the boy. He shouted into the room. Sam recovered and grabbed a tire iron.
Where's the boy?
Chasing after him, she kicked the door open. Luckily, Logan had hidden. The killer hadn't found him. But Sam's eyes darted to a closet door. The man followed her gaze. A sign read Logan's Fort. The kid was in his secret base. The man grinned. Sam knew it was time to fight. She swung the iron bar wildly, even launching a Superman punch. But he dodged it all easily. He beat her down, punch after punch, until she was dazed. Sam dragged her broken body into the hallway. When he let his guard down, she pushed him over the railing. But she wasn't done. Sam grabbed a heavy TV and dropped it right on his face, crushing his skull. When the parents, the Kublers, arrived home, the house was silent and destroyed. There was a smell of sizzling meat in the air. The father saw the body on the floor. He moved the TV. It wasn't a stranger, it was their actual babysitter, Sam. Wait, Sam was a guy.
Sam. It's the babysitter.
The drawing on the fridge earlier showed a male babysitter. The TV news confirmed it. The escaped lunatic wasn't a man. It was the young woman calling herself Sam. Her real name is Charlotte. Locals call her the Tooth Fairy Killer. She murdered 12 kids before. And the man with glasses, staring at the microwave? That's Dr. Harold Kubler, the doctor from all 3 stories. In the first story, he was the cheating husband, whose wallet Emma stole. In the second, he was the doctor who told Jake he was pregnant. He mentioned losing his medical license for shady acts. In the third, he gave Wendell the poison, encouraging him to kill his wife. Evil begets evil. When the corrupt doctor opened the microwave, he found his own son Logan, cooked to a crisp by the Tooth Fairy. The ultimate karma. Back in the mortuary? Montgomery isn't shocked by Charlotte's confession. He calmly asks why she came back here. She explains that for every kill, she takes a tooth as a trophy. It's her twisted ritual. She didn't have time to get Logan's tooth before fleeing the house. She's here to collect it from his corpse. To tie up loose ends, she stabs Montgomery in the stomach. She mocks his philosophy, saying karma is a lie and villains always win. But this time, she messed with the wrong person. As she turns to leave, she hears Montgomery laughing behind her. He stands up, completely unfazed. Yellow embalming fluid, not blood, leaks from his wound. He isn't human, telling her that the job is now hers. Charlotte tries to run, but everywhere she goes, she ends up back where she started. The moment she signed the contract, she became part of the mortuary. She runs into the library. Books start falling from the shelves. There are 12 books, each documenting one of her murders. She freezes in horror. From the pages of the books, the burnt spirits of the children she killed crawl out. They surround her, tearing her apart with their teeth, ripping her to shreds. After her screams fade, Montgomery takes her remains to the embalming room. He stitches her broken body back together, piece by piece. Then Montgomery opens the front door. He looks at the sunlight. He tests it with his cane first, then steps out, finally free. But as he walks down the steps, he feels something wrong. His body instantly withers, turning into a pile of ash. He had been trapped there, serving the mortuary for centuries. He gained his freedom, but his body no longer belonged to the living world. With Montgomery gone, the next keeper wakes up on the embalming table. Charlotte gasps, her body covered in stitched scars. She screams in despair. She is now trapped in this hideous body, doomed to serve the mortuary for hundreds of years. At the very end, the paperboy returns to the front door. He probably came back for his camera, but this time, he might never leave.
I better get going.
So soon. I was just about to